It's 7 o'clock, and I would like to get our meeting called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Martha, please call the roll.
Davis.
Here.
Laura.
Here.
Inman.
Here.
Crane. Here. Quinn.
Here.
Rothrock. Here. Schlossmacher.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get started this evening, I want to welcome those people in the audience, residents and members of the public who are joining us. There will be opportunities to make comments, address the council this evening. If you are here for a specific agenda item, please wait until that item comes up and then raise your hand to be recognized for that item. If what you want to talk about is not on the agenda this evening, we do have a spot set aside. It's item number 5, public comments, and that will be the time for items that are not on the agenda. We do have a revised agenda this evening. It has to do with storm debris cleanup, and it has been added under new business. I would entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda.
Mayor, I move the City Council approve the revised agenda as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call for the vote.
Schlossmacher.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 1, we do have a public hearing this evening. It is on the proposed Roeland Court Townhomes Community Improvement District. Ms. Smith, will you please provide us information on this topic?
Yes, and Mayor, if you would, please go ahead and formally open the public hearing for us, and then I'll make my comments as a part of that record.
The public hearing for the Roeland Court Townhomes Community Improvement District is now open.
Thank you. As most of you know or may recall, that back in August of 2017, there was a subsidence that occurred in the parking area of the Roeland Court Homes Association, impacting a significant portion of their parking lot. Since that subsidence, staff has been working with our consultants working with the HOA and residents of the Homes Association to really explore solutions to address the situation. And after more than a year of investigation, conversation, and a desire to really effectively solve this problem, a cooperative solution is ready for council consideration. Staff, the Homes Association and GBA worked to develop a solution that would create a community improvement district, or a CID. Oftentimes we associate the community improvement districts with a sales tax component, but they also include a special assessment component, which allows us to use them similar to a special benefit district on private property. This was an option that we explored in a tremendous amount of detail with the Homes Association, and we spent a lot of time working with them and their members on how that might be structured and what that might look like over the 22-year period over which an assessment could be collected from those property owners. Before a CID could be considered by the City Council, the Homes Association would need to submit a petition to the City Council that would guarantee that property owners representing at least 55% of the land area within the proposed district and 55% of the assessed valuation would sign the CID petition. In early December, a valid CID petition that met those thresholds, was submitted. The first step in the creation of a community improvement district is for the council to pass a resolution calling a public hearing on the creation of that CID. That resolution was adopted at your December City Council meeting, calling the public hearing for the 7 o'clock City Council meeting this evening, January 16th. Following adoption of that resolution in December, we provided the legally required notice to the impacted property owners, and so this evening we hold that public hearing. Again, this would be an opportunity for about $343,000 worth of costs to make repairs to the parking area and restore landscaping, fencing, and some other areas that were damaged as a part of the subsidence, to be done in conjunction with a city project in the creek channel. and it would allow the city to pay for our portion of design and construction of those improvements, and the Homes Association's cost to be assessed proportionately back across their property owners. There are 20 property owners that are part of the Roeland Court Homes Association, and the assessment as anticipated or contemplated in the current petition would result in an maximum annual assessment of about $781 for each of those property owners over the next 22 years. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions if we have them later, but don't know if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak as a part of the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I would now entertain comments from members of the public. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please step forward and state your name and city of residence for the record. Seeing no members of the public coming forward, the public hearing on the Roeland Court Townhomes Community Improvement District is closed. The council will consider this item under 7A. Moving on to number 2, special presentations. Our first presentation is from Consolidated Fire District number 2. Deputy Chief Chick and Fire Marshal Kirchhoff are here with us tonight to provide an activity update and mission.
Good evening. Thanks for letting us come in and give you an update this evening. A couple of things we'd like to bring you up to speed on. First of all, we're all aware of the recent weather we had. We ran in Consolidated Fire District 2's area last weekend. We ran about 125 calls that were storm related on Saturday. Nearly 25 of those were in the city of Mission, and at this point all of those issues have been resolved, and we're planning now for impending weather that we're looking at this weekend. We work with various public works departments from the cities in the district and those cities as well to try and plan for these events. But I wanted to give you a quick update on the recent weather and find out if you had any specific questions for us, and then I want to turn it over to Fire Marshal Kirchhoff, who investigated the fatality fire that we had up at the bridges. So any questions for me before I pass it to Todd? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Todd Kirchhoff. I'm the Fire Marshal with Consolidated Fire District number 2. On December 16th at about approximately 6 p.m., Consolidated Fire District number 2 responded to 6909 West 51st Place. We responded on what's called a modified response, which the dispatch information at the time was a sounding fire alarm and a slight odor of smoke. This was from a neighboring tenant of the apartment. Upon arrival, the first-in crews discovered that apartment 2B was in fact on fire and made entry into that apartment. And in their attempts to locate the, they're searching for victims and looking for the seat of the fire, they did find a victim. That victim was identified as Patricia McFeeder, 69-year-old female who lived in that apartment for some 20 years. The fire crews removed her from the scene. She was transported to KU Burn Center. Approximately 11 o'clock that evening, the family made the decision to remove her from life support, and about 5 a.m. the next morning, she passed away. The next morning at approximately 8 a.m., I met the State Fire Marshal investigators at the scene, and we conducted an investigation. During that investigation, we determined that the fire originated in the living room. It appears the patient was sleeping in a chair and fell asleep while smoking, and caught the possibly a blanket, possibly the upholstery of the chair that she was sitting in, or even possibly the clothes she was wearing on fire. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, our next presentation, presentations are from the Police Department, Captain Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
I want to update you real quick on some personnel matters. As you may have seen, the police department had a lot of personnel changes over the last year. 9 of those being newly hired officers. 7 of those having 1 year of experience or less. As you know, when you have that many new folks, it's important to have a strong leadership and supervision team and the right people in the right positions to help those new officers grow. With that being said, you can rest assured we got that covered. At the rank of corporal, we have an average of 15 years experience in that rank. And at the rank of sergeant, we have 20 years of experience in that rank. So keeping those statistics in mind, I would like to present Officer Nate Fleming. Nate, come on up. Nate started with us in June of 2015, and during that time has been a field trainer to our new officers. And Nate brings 10 years of experience with him from Johnson County Sheriff's Office. And I know he'll continue to do a great job in his new role as corporal. I'm pleased to present to you our newest promotion to the rank of corporal, Nate Fleming.
All right, Nate.
Go get those handshakes. Good morning, guys. Everybody, get in here.
Thank you.
Excellent. Congratulations.
I'd like to fill the room up a little bit with some more blue. Another quick presentation I'd like to give you. I'm really proud of this one too, because these don't happen very often, but we're always happy to present these. So I'm going to read you this quick synopsis of what happened. On 12/2/2018 at approximately 1:25 hours, Corporal Tony Palmieri and Officer Drake Sparks responded to a call in reference to a suicidal subject. The sister of the man suffering the mental health emergency said her brother has threatened to hang himself. Upon arrival, a quick check of the area revealed that the subject was hanging from a tree with a makeshift noose around his neck in the backyard. Officer Sparks quickly lifted the subject in order to relieve the stress caused by the noose. Corporal Palmieri cut the noose from the tree and removed it from his neck, where he's able to breathe and communicate. He was then taken into custody and examined by EMS, and then transported to China Mission Medical Center, where his family had him committed to the hospital for treatment. Had the officers not responded quickly and located the subject, his life could have ended. Corporal Palmieri and Officer Sparks' actions reflect great credit upon themselves, the Mission Police Department, and the City of Mission. So I'm happy to present Officer Sparks and Corporal Tony Palmieri, the life-saving award for our agency. I think Corporal Palmieri brought his better part. She's taking a picture right now. And Officer Sparks brought his folks here. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I got my dad, and I guess Greg now too. He worked for Mary for 26 years, and my brother works for Mary, and he did well. My mom, Diane.
I'm mom and dad, brother. Corporal Palmieri, your wife? Sam?
Sam.
There she is. That concludes our presentation.
Yes. It might be less eventful these days. You're still welcome.
Next on our agenda, I'd like to call up Suzie Gibbs, who's with us this evening to provide a year-end wrap-up of the holiday adoption program. Suzie.
Thank you. And since I'm used to looking that way, I'm going to stand right here so I can look this way and that way. Is that all right with everybody? Okay. This is not only update on the family adoption. It's also an update on the Mission Magazine. Fun fact, February 2019, 10 years ago, was our first issue of the Mission Magazine. Think about this, 2010, our first issue. And our 10th issue, or 10-year issue, will be coming out in February 2019. And some of you will remember the issue, the very first issue, had Rachel Finn on the cover, who had Chacos down in Mission. And we also wrote a story about Karina White. She was a 5th grader at Rushton Elementary who wrote a story about Indians, and her book was published. So we caught up with both of those people. So we found out what they're doing 10 years later. So it's really going to be a cool issue in January or February, because this will be our 10-year anniversary. I know it doesn't sound like it if you go from 2010 to 2019, but if you go 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's 10 years. So we've had a great 10 years, and it's been a phenomenal magazine. Lots of people love it. I hope you guys love it as much. If you have any suggestions, we'd love to get them. We're always looking for good stories, so don't hesitate to call me. We'd love to get them from you. So questions about the Mission Magazine? Okay, holiday adoption. I think most of you probably got this fact sheet in the mail with your thank you notes. If you did not, I will send that down again, so you may have another one. I would just like to say a big thank you to everybody who helped us make it happen. It did happen. So I would like to introduce first the group that's sitting back there in the corner, because without them, it wouldn't have happened. Okay, Mr. Lynn Crane, stand up. As you all know, Lynn, Debbie's other half, if it wasn't for Lynn, we wouldn't have groceries in a row, we wouldn't have tables in a row, we wouldn't have shopping carts. Lynn took care of all that. He was magical. It worked out beautifully. Just stay standing. Kathy Casey. He sits down anyway. He minds real well. Kathy Casey. What?
And my partner.
Yes. Oh, and your partner, Miss Jo Mitchell. And Miss Jo Mitchell just loves making cinnamon rolls. Her magical hand just makes cinnamon rolls for us all, and we have them for breakfast, both Thanksgiving and Christmas, with our coffee to start our day off. Kathy Casey is right there to help everybody, so they make a great team. Kathy Bauer, she took over the wrapping this year. She took over all the coordinating, all mixing everything together, trying to get everything to work. 2 different rooms. This is the first year we've ever done this. This is the first year we've ever had 91 people, or 91 families. But Kathy, you did a phenomenal job. So thank you very much. Kathy Lockhart, our right-hand lady. She carries the book and all the history, so you don't dare take it, because if you drop it, you're in trouble, which I did kind of mess it up. But Kathy, we couldn't get along without you. You did a great job, and thank you so much. Mary Funk. Miss Mary was down there to help Kathy Bauer in the room, organizing and wrapping and so forth. Mary Funk also quilted 11 quilts for women and 3 baby quilts that she donated to us to give to these people. Mr. Lynn Crane, would you stand up, please? You notice he's the only male on the committee. We also have Joanna Rush. She is not here tonight. She's with Roeland Park, but Lynn keeps us all in line. Is that right? So anyway, thank you so much to this group that made it happen. I just would like to... And as you know, we started out, 2006 with 6 families. It's kind of grown to 91. So we've had to do different things and make different ways. And it's been kind of interesting this year, but we worked it out and it worked well. So I would just like to thank everybody. I think most of you probably got thank you notes. If you didn't, I'm sorry, because we mailed out a lot. But I think it tells how many people actually helped. I put 99 thank you notes in the mail Monday night. Now, that's just not that I wrote 99, because we sent some of them these little flyers with thank yous. But that didn't touch everybody, because the people who just dropped money in a jar, I don't know who they are. I don't know the people that took tags off the tree. I don't know the people that just bought gifts or brought in gift cards and gave them to us. So if you add another 100, add another 25, 35, what's your guess, group? Maybe 50, we probably had 150 volunteers. And I think that speaks very, very highly for our city. I think it's wonderful if they all came out. It also shows me how much they love what we do and trust us, because we had a donation fund of almost $14,000. Am I correct, Laura? Last year, we had 3 large donations, which we took in, which totaled $11,000, just the 3 of them. This year, we didn't have those donations. So what we collected in $14,000 was lots of 25, 50s, 100, nothing wrong with those, but it took a lot of those to get to the 14,000. So we started out this year with $500, I think, in reserve. So I think we did really well to take care of 91 families for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. If you think of the people who helped, and I'll just kind of run by a few of them, and I know the committee's probably thinking of other people. I was at a meeting with the principals from this area, and I just mentioned that we were having our family adoption, and I said, you might just want to let your secretaries know at school that we need wrapping paper. So Jeremy Higgins, the principal of Shawnee Mission North, went back and told the teachers. One of the teachers' husband is a designer at Hallmark, and he said to his wife, how many pallets do you want? But we did get 80 rolls of wrapping paper. So that was great. It will take us over till next year, right, Kathy?
Oh, yeah.
And then Paul Howe, the principal of Horizon, says, my in-laws would like to help. What would you need from them? And I said, how about Scotch tape? They brought us 40 rolls of Scotch tape. So we'll have enough of that for next year. So all it takes is a few conversations, just talking to people. Next year we're going to ask for ribbons and gift bags and little credit card bags, because if you give me $100, you don't want me spending it on them. You want me spending it on their food. So I don't like to have expenses. I like to make sure that all the money we get goes to the families. We also had food drives from 3 of the schools. Shawnee Mission North had a food drive for us. Santa Fe had a food drive, and so did Rushton. And I know that sounds kind of strange. They asked their parents to bring us canned goods, and then we turn around and help a lot of them give them back the canned goods. But it makes them feel better, and I think it's wonderful that they contribute that way. And then thanks to the City Council, Pat Quinn, I love your challenge.
Thank you.
That was amazing. I thought that was really, really cool. And we all loved your Egg McMuffins. That was a great way to start out the morning with your Egg McMuffins. And you and Mary just stayed and helped. I mean, that was awesome. So I really do appreciate that. Bid Solutions, how many volunteers did you have? 30, 40?
No, 16 or 17 people, I think.
Pretty sure that's all.
Maybe about 20. I don't have the exact
We had a lot.
We had
But
quite
that
a
was
few.
wonderful. And then you also brought some young kids,
Yep.
which was awesome. And I think it's wonderful when parents bring their young kids. Let them show how they can give back to their community. I just think that's tremendous. So I really do appreciate Bid Solutions. That was great. Debbie, I know you adopted a family
Okay, let me just share just a 30-second brief
All right.
tip. Every year, you know, Lynn and I, we get a family, we always ask for a larger family. So we had a family this year of 8 people, a mom, a dad, and 6 kids. And I've never, you know, we work the day, but I've never seen anybody that has anything to do with our gifts until this year. And the mom walked in, and she was extremely humble and said, I feel bad I'm doing this, we just don't have anything, my husband's lost his job, I said, that's fine, what's your number? She says, well, I have a number, and so I took her down the path, she goes, that's my number, and it was the gifts that we'd given. And she was so appreciative. I never saw anything like it. She was humble and appreciative, and it makes you want to do it over and over. So I thank you, Suzie, for keeping this going, because it's a great tribute to Mission, it's a great tribute to the community and the neighborhoods that we support. And they need our help, and I think that's great that you keep doing this. So thank you.
Well, we've had lots of compliments on it. And, you know, and Nick's wife had jewelry parties, gave us recognition, plus she donated a little bit more. So, you know, everybody pulled together.
And her bilingual skills.
And her bilingual skills. I heard her just talking Spanish, and I'm like, I hope you're saying something nice.
Usually when I hear her talking Spanish, it's not.
But not only that, we had Park and Rec. I mean, Public Works, I'm looking at you and saying Park and Rec, we had Public Works. And it was so great because some of the things that we couldn't use, we donated to other places that could use them. All I had to do was to call Brent and say, would you be so kind as to take bikes someplace or scooters someplace? And I'll be right there. I called the Mission Police Department. We had a lady who was in seclusion. She had been battered, you know, so I called my phone. Mike and Matt came up. They said, we'll be right there, Suze. They were there in 2 minutes. And they picked up her address and took the stuff out to her. So, you know, it's amazing when you just can pick up the phone in your city and say, I need help. And they're right there. The fire department was down. They took the afternoon shift from 12 to 4. They just emptied people's tables and put them in their car. It was just amazing how everything just worked together so well. The mayor's son came down, walked in, and he says, what can I do to help? I said, sit down. So he sat down, and he watched me for a couple of minutes, just check people in, and he says, I'm fine. So I just left him. And it was amazing how, here's this kid that I've known since he was like little. And he just sat down and took over and just checked people in, and it was absolutely phenomenal. So the fun part was seeing some of these little kids that were 8, 10, under, and they were just having a blast. They'd go in the rooms where they were wrapping the gifts. They'd pick up the gifts and then run out and put them on the tables. Then they'd run back and get another gift, run back and put them on the tables. They were phenomenal, and I just think it's such a phenomenal way for the parents to do this. I think it's great. And Andrew Drill was going to be here tonight. I'm sorry he's not here. I think some of you have met him. He's our judge's son. Every year he gets 100 red stockings, and then his parents give him money, and he goes to dollar store. And he filled them this year with, okay, toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant,
Shower gel or soap, bar soap.
Bar soap. Anybody remember anything back there?
Yeah, soap.
Anyway, he always does this. And this year he was not able to distribute them to the tables like he usually does. But he did fill all the 100 stockings with all these supplies. And you know, that's a great way to teach your children to give back to the community. I just thought that was absolutely phenomenal. We had a couple from Christ Church, and he said he brings his son down every year. And they brought gifts. But this son this time was putting packages on the table. So it was just so much fun to watch those kids. But I can tell you that it was a great event. All of you helped. You guys were there. I appreciate all you guys that came down and volunteered. I know you guys were there for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, this is a very special project for me. Let me just close by saying that we had a lady that had called me about 4 days before Christmas. And she wanted to know if we could take her. And I said, you know, we have a procedure. We go through the schools, and I want to make sure that we go through the schools. Well, she didn't call back, and she didn't call back. And so all through Christmas, it just bothered me. It just, you know, you just think about it, wake up in the middle of the night and think that those people really get Christmas wrappings and gifts and food. So I started calling the social worker right after New Year's. And I told him somebody had given us a gift card for $65 to Honey Baked Hams. I said, I'll go get the ham. I'll bring it to her. Ask her if she would still like it. So in about 15 minutes she called, and she said she would love it. So I said, would you like some groceries? And she said, I can always use groceries. So I said, I'll meet you at Hy-Vee tomorrow. And she said, real cute, well, can I bring my children? And I said, well, certainly. And she said, well, you know, I have 4 under 7. So all I could think of was, okay, I'm going shopping with 4 little kids under 7. I haven't done that in years. I've never done it. So, so Kelsey was sitting across the room, and I said, okay, lady, you're on. So she said, I told her, I said, you've got 3 kids to take care of while I go grocery shopping. She said, Grandma, I know exactly what to do. So she walked into Hy-Vee, and she went up to him, and Kelsey was so funny because I think of her 10 years ago. And she walked up to him, and she says, I'm Kelsey, what's your name? And this little boy with very big brown eyes. I'm Michael. And you know, then she just went around the room. And she said, do any of you guys want cookies? Well, hello. Guess what? They just followed her right out the room. And she said, did you know that all little kids get cookies at the bakery at Hy-Vee? All little kids get balloons. You can tie the string around your wrist, so they all got balloons. They all got bananas. And then they went up and rode the horses while I took Mom shopping, which was a wonderful thing for all of us. So I took the lady, and we went up and down the aisles, and I said, you need this, 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 this. You know, she just wanted the basics. She wanted milk, bread, cereal. She was like your lady, very humble. So we got to the end, and I said, you don't have any knickknacks for the kids. I said, don't you want something? She said, well, they do like cookies. But she said, I do have a request that I would prefer. And I said, name it. Anybody want to guess? She said, could I just please have a tube of toothpaste? Okay, guys, I got lost. I mean, it was, and I looked at her and I said, you may have as many as you want, go get them, and then we'll go get treats for the kids. And I know, Pat, you're thinking, but you surely got her treats, right? I did. She only got 2 tubes of toothpaste, and she had 4 kids, and she and her boyfriend, her husband. This is why we do the program. This is why we do the program. This lady was very, very humble. She was the sweetest thing. Her kids were dolls, great big brown eyes, curly hair, clean as a whistle. I mean, you would have loved them, and they wanted Kelsey to go home with them, of course. But you know, it was a beautiful scene. And when she said, may I just have a tube of toothpaste? How many of us take a tube of toothpaste for granted? It's heartbreaking. So this is the reason we do it, and I just want to say thank you to all of you so much, because I think this program means a lot to a lot of people here. We've gotten a couple of notes from schools, and Hawker just wrote a very nice note and said, thank you so much for doing this, and this is the first year we've ever included them. So I would just like to close, unless somebody has a question, with this comment, and it was from Mother Teresa. She says, we know only too well that what we are doing is nothing more than a drop in the ocean. But if the drop were not there, the ocean would be missing something. So I can say to you all, thank you for helping us put that drop in the ocean.
Suzie, thank you.
Anybody want to say anything? Any comments? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, moving on. Item 3 on our agenda is the issuance of notes and bonds. And we do not have any notes and bonds this evening, so we'll move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda has 5 items on it tonight. Our council committees met on January 9th and fully discussed each of these items. The committee agreed that these items listed under our consent agenda are routine enough that they can be considered under one single motion. Several other items that were discussed at the committee level are on the agenda later on tonight. If a council member or a member of the public wants any item removed from the consent agenda, now would be the time to make that request.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would ask that we defer on the approval of the 2 committee minutes, since they're not ready for us to review, and that we move that to the next month's agenda.
All right. There's been 1 week between the meetings, so the minutes are not available. So, considering that request, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, with the exception noted by Ken, items 4A through 4E.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you were referring to the Finance Administration Committee minutes and the Community Development Committee minutes?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call for a vote.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item 5, public comments. This is what I was talking about earlier in the meeting. If there's someone, a member of the public, who wants to discuss or come and talk about an item that's not on the agenda this evening, please step forward, state your name and city of residence for the record. Does anybody want to address council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, it's action items. We do have 1 item to be considered this evening that came from our planning commission. Mr. Scott, would you brief us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission met on December 17th to consider an item, a lot split, Lot 58 of Mission Hill Acres, or commonly known as number 5529 Maple Street here in the city of Mission. This property has a single-family home on it right now that was built approximately 1920. The home's been vacant for a few years. The applicant, Mr. Steve Clayton of Clayton Custom Homes, recently purchased the lot and desires to split the lot into 2 lots and build new homes on each lot for sale. City Code Section 410.010 states any single-family dwelling constructed, reconstructed, or altered shall require having a lot width of not less than 70 feet and an average width or depth, of 110 feet with the following exception. Any lot may be split to a minimum width of 60 feet and a depth of 110 feet if it complements the overall character of the adjacent neighborhood. In considering applications for a lot split to a width of less than 70 feet, the lot width of any newly created lot may not be less than 75% of the average front lot widths of lots within the subject property block. So 5529 Maple Street is a block that's defined by Maple Street, obviously, 56th Street to the south, 55th Street to the north, and Knoll Avenue to the east. All the lots on that block are exactly 60 feet wide, with the exception of this one lot, the subject lot, which is 125 feet wide. So splitting that in half would be 62.5 feet. So it would be above the 60 feet. So this does meet that stipulation of the zoning regulations. There was one comment during the public hearing from a resident that spoke in favor of the lot split. The Planning Commission did approve recommendation to the City Council 9-0. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right. And we are acting on that this evening, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the City Council uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approve the proposed lot split of 5529 Maple, case number 18-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Flora,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schlesmacher,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on. Item 7, committee reports. Councilmember Schlesmacher, would you please provide a report on finance and administration?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 items tonight on the Finance and Administration Committee report. Our committee met last on January 9th and discussed 4 items, 2 of which were considered this evening on the consent agenda, and 2 additional items for our consideration tonight. The first is in regards to the Roeland Townhomes Community Improvement District, which we had the hearing on earlier tonight. In August of 2017, subsidence of the parking area of the Roeland Townhomes occurred. Since then, staff has been working with the residents, consultants, and engineers to address the situation, and a cooperative solution has been identified. Creation of a community improvement district for this area would allow a special assessment component to be activated to allow the property owners a longer period of time to repay any repair costs. A valid CID petition was submitted to the city by the affected property owners. In December, Council approved a resolution calling a public hearing on the creation of this proposed CID, and the public hearing was held at the beginning of the meeting earlier tonight. Over the last few weeks, the property owners, the Roeland Homeowners Association, have explored other options to increase the scope of the project on their property. These changes could add to the overall project costs and the maximum CID assessment included in the original petition. Staff is still working with the HOA on this change, which could impact the parameters of the CID. Because of this, it's recommended that no action be taken tonight to this proposed ordinance to establish the Roeland Townhomes Community Improvement District. That being said, Mayor, I move the City Council table consideration of the proposed ordinance authorizing the creation of the Roeland Townhomes Community Improvement District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, if I might,
Yes.
I might suggest that perhaps the council consider tabling that specifically to, or sending it back to the February Finance and Administration Committee meeting, so we give it a date specific, and those who are interested can follow that. What we discussed at our last meeting, and I think we'll be in position to discuss that in more detail then. So that would be February 6th, I believe, is the date of the Community Development Committee.
All right.
Okay, so based on that recommendation, I would like to amend the motion to actually include sending this matter back to the February Finance and Administration Committee meeting.
Second.
All right. We vote, okay, we'll vote on the amended motion. All right, so any other discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Flora,
Aye.
Inman, aye. Crane.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock. Schlosmacher.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thomas.
And the original motion, okay,
Table.
so we don't have to do anything with it. Okay,
We still need to vote on it? Yeah. We just voted on the amendment.
Right.
And we'll vote on the.
okay, so any discussion on the original amendment? Original motion, I'm sorry. All right, seeing none, we'll call a vote on the original.
Well, the original
It's the
motion
amended motion.
with the amended.
We just voted on the amendment,
Right.
to change it. Now we're going to vote on the amended motion.
Is that correct? Okay, let's vote on the,
Just one point of that, I'd just like to give staff, Laura, everybody kudos for trying to work with Roeland Homes Association to try to come up with a good, equitable solution for both them and the city. Just help them get back to normal.
Thanks.
all right. So, please call the vote.
Inman.
So am I voting for,
The amended motion.
We voted to approve.
Send it back to
approve the
FNA.
amendment.
Send it back to FNA.
So now we're voting whether.
so I guess I'm supposed to say yes?
Flora.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Schlosmacher.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
Next up, we have item number 7B. It's updates on our 2019 legislative program. Each year, the council adopts policies and priorities for the upcoming state legislative session. These are presented in the proposed 2019 legislative program, which is helpful in communicating the city's general position to our legislators. Once approved, the program is provided to all of our legislators. The proposed program includes some of the issues of municipal interest as identified in the 2019 Statement of Municipal Policy prepared by the League of Kansas Municipalities. The 2019 program also includes many of the policies and priorities of last year's program, with 12 additional policies that were identified by council members during the January 9th committee meeting. All additional policies agreed to by the majority of the members present at that meeting have been included in the final proposed 2019 legislative program. Mayor, I move the City Council adopt the 2019 legislative program for the City of Mission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Davis.
I have a question about one of the items, which is on page 6, which has to do with the legalization of marijuana. My concern is that the way that that's worded, it's in conflict with the earlier item, which is substance abuse prevention and treatment. What I'd like to ask for consideration is an amendment that would substitute the legalization of medical marijuana, which was discussed at our committee meeting, and that language be substituted for the language that is on number 6, page number 6.
Motion.
So I guess I'm making a motion to amend by substitution that legalization of marijuana be substituted by legalization of medical marijuana. The city supports legalization of medical marijuana in 2019. The medical marijuana taxation opportunities as seen in neighboring states could create a significant revenue stream for our city. Additionally, this legitimate medicine should not be withheld from Mission or Kansas residents.
I have one question on
Okay,
that.
we have a amendment. We need to get a second on that. We have a second on Ken's amendment.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, discussion.
I just had a question. Do you have any kind of other evidence to give us that we can consider for any kind of impacts on tax revenues from medical marijuana from any states? You just mentioned it, so I just wanted to.
I'm just going by what we were discussing in our committee meeting. There are no dollar amounts that are listed with that. The dollar amounts were put in with the regular.
With the regular marijuana, but not.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, but I guess what I'm getting at is changing, just substituting some words kind of changes the outcome of the whole thing. So we may want to be mindful of
My
that.
primary purpose is to make it consistent with the prior statement, which is the substance abuse prevention and treatment. And I know that the chief of police had some comments and concerns about our council adopting this as it was. But the support of at least medical use of marijuana would be a better way to go, in my opinion.
Ken, I totally support substance abuse efforts and obviously what we've added to our legislative platform. And the medical marijuana piece that you want to replace that language, I wrote that, so I totally support that. But I do support the legalization of marijuana because I don't think the argument that substance abuse is consistent with marijuana use. The data that I've read, what I've explored, it's just not there. And I think opening that door allows us to do further research on if there is some sort of correlation, but that's my 2 cents.
And I would just second what Councilmember Thomas said and sort of dispute the premise that there is any tension. And I would also direct the council's attention to the second portion of our substance abuse prevention and treatment prong, which states that we want to look at criminal justice reform measures that target treatment of drug use as a health issue, not a criminal one. And I think, the criminalization of marijuana, there's a lot of information out there on racially disparate impacts and things like that. And so I think that actually the legalization would be consistent with that prong and not inconsistent with the substance abuse prevention.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, then we are going to vote on Mr. Davis's amendment. Please call for a vote.
Okay, Thomas,
Nay.
Davis,
Aye.
Schlossmacher,
Nay.
Rothrock,
Nay.
Quinn,
Nay.
Crane,
Nay.
Inman,
Nay.
Flora.
Nay.
Motion fails.
All right, so we are back on the original motion to adopt the legislative platform. Any discussion, additional discussion on that? Ms. Flora.
Yeah, I would just encourage the rest of the submission to go ahead and take a look, and especially if you're interested in advocacy at the State House, you might find the positions you're interested in would now have the backing of the city, or if they don't, to come before us next year, and we can talk about what you're interested in seeing us use our influence for in the State House.
One other thing, I'm looking forward to going to the local government day in Topeka next week. It's a league event where we have an opportunity to meet with the mission legislators, and I have appointments set up with Representative Hsu, Representative Owsley, and Senator Bollier. So I'm looking forward to that and hopefully answering any questions they might have about our platform that we're presenting to them.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Davis,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Schlossmacher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That concludes the Finance and Administration report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Inman, would you provide a report on our Community Development Committee, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Development Committee also met on January 9th and discussed 7 items. Several of those items were informational or for discussion only, and 2 were considered in tonight's consent agenda. There are 2 additional items for consideration tonight. One of them is the CARS Interlocal Broadmoor-Johnson Drive to Martway project. Improvements to Broadmoor between Johnson Drive and Martway are included in the city's capital improvement program for construction in 2019. This project is also approved for funding through the Johnson County CARS program. Up to 50% of the project's construction and construction inspection costs are eligible to be reimbursed by the CARS program. Costs associated with the design, utility relocation, right-of-way easement acquisition are not eligible for CARS reimbursement. Total project's costs are estimated at $1,162,706, and this proposed interlocal agreement specifies the county's participation in the project for a total cost not to exceed $453,000 and commits city funds for the project. Approval of this interlocal agreement is the final step with the county to move the Broadmoor reconstruction project forward in the county's CARS approval process. It is anticipated that this project will be put out for bid in early spring. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the interlocal agreement with Johnson County for the public improvement of Broadmoor Drive between Johnson Drive and Martway, CARS project number 32001308, using 2019 CARS program funding in an amount not to exceed $453,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Laura.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear to the folks that are here tonight that this is also the action that commits the city's funds to the project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes. And, you know, we had a lot of discussion about the scope of this project, so we're looking at $700,000 or so of city funds, and I still wish that we had been more forward-thinking in our design plan on this. I understand the concerns of the business owners, but I'm worried about the commitment of city funds to a project that doesn't comply with our current city code, let alone looking forward to what we want this road to be, 10, 20 years from now. And so, but that being said, with this concern, I've been outvoted on that twice now, and so, to get the CARS funds, I think that it's a good project in that respect to get the support of the county on this.
Any other discussion?
I just have one
Yes, Ms.
comment.
Green.
On the current construction that's ongoing right now between Johnson Drive and Hartway on Broadmoor, where Water 1 is in there, I honestly encourage you to be very careful driving through there, because I pulled into the vet's office. By the time I pulled out, which was within 10 minutes, they'd already started pouring concrete. I could barely get out. So I just be very careful when you're driving in that direction. Maybe I'm a poor driver, but I almost ended up in cement.
Are we going to vote on your driving?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Davis. Aye. Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The second item tonight is stormwater repairs at 50th and Dearborn. A portion of the corrugated metal pipe, also known as CMP, under the driveway at 5028 Dearborn collapsed late last fall, and sinkholes formed adjacent to this area, causing unsafe conditions for the public. Public Works installed a temporary solution until a permanent solution can be identified. Because of the condition of the pipe, other pipe in the area, some of which is underneath the roadway, the limits of the project were expanded to ensure the repairs would provide long-term stability for the road. This is particularly important since Dearborn is a dead-end street, providing only one way in and one way out of the neighborhood. The design for this project includes removal, replacement, or abandonment of the existing stormwater pipe, as well as a bid alternate to design the slip lining of a storm culvert under Dearborn Street, which would allow for repairs without disturbing the road. The scope and fees identified in this task order from GBA include surveying, site investigation, and development of plans for repairs at this location, as well as project administration and bid phase services. Mayor, I move the City Council approve a task order from GBA for survey, design, and bid phase services for repairs in the storm drainage infrastructure failure at 50th and Dearborn Street, in an amount not to exceed $28,179.50.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think Councilmember Schlesmacher brought this up in the committee meeting, but were we able to explore the potential of any other bids for that $28,000 cost, since that's just for design?
We did not. I mean, that's not been our practice with our two on-call engineering firms that we have, and that direction wasn't provided specifically. I know we indicated we felt comfortable with that price, but we did not go back out and research any additional bids for that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, that brings us to item 8, unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business this evening, so that brings us to item 9, new business, and we have one new business item, storm debris cleanup. Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you. So as we all know, we've been dealing with a lot of storm-related issues following the Winter Storm Gia that dumped on us over the weekend. I didn't know we named winter storms, but apparently we do. We have Harper. I think Harper is the one that's on its way or something. Anyway, so we have been, first of all, I would like to just say thank you to our public works staff and to the police department and others who spent a lot of hours last weekend. We have spent a tremendous amount of time trying to look at options. Obviously, there was significant limb damage throughout the community, and when that occurs, we really need to step back and say, what options do we have? And what do we want to provide for our residents? And so we appreciate everybody's patience as we've tried to collect information, particularly in light of the weather that we think is coming this weekend. While oftentimes you want to be quick with a decision, we want to make sure that we're doing one that serves the residents' interest in the longer term most effectively. So typically, I think it's been since probably the storms of 2002, as I understand it, that the city has not offered curbside collection. We've typically offered that as a drop-off service. The last time we offered a drop-off service, it was following a summer windstorm event, and we used Mohawk Park as a drop-off site. If we think about drop-off sites as options, and we looked at both public and private properties, the concern is volume at this point, and the concern is overwhelming potentially any drop-off site with the amount of material that might be available, because we don't have the space or the capacity to grind material on site, so we have to dump it, neatly stack it, pile it, load it in a truck, and then take it to a drop-off site. The other challenge that we have, and typically we use our public works staff to do that, the other challenge that we have when these events occur in the winter is that we can't take the spreaders off of the back of our trucks to load them with brush to dispose of that. So we would still be looking at, if we offer drop-off, looking at a contractual situation to haul that. That is an option. It's one that we've had some difficulty in trying to get some very specific pricing around, because we just don't know what volume of materials that we would get. One of the things that we did initially, and I'm pleased to announce, is that I did reach out to Waste Management, who, as you know, as part of our regular ongoing trash contract, we offer throughout the year curbside yard waste collection service. At this time of year, typically the number of set-outs is limited to 6. Waste Management has agreed to remove the limit through the end of February to allow residents the opportunity to set out and dispose of those items which are smaller or maybe bundled and handled more efficiently in that fashion at no additional cost to the city. So we appreciate
size parameters.
So it will be the same size parameters that are on the regular yard waste program. So we will certainly republicize those and get that information out. But I am, appreciative of Waste Management's consideration in that regard, because I think it allows folks, again, with a limited amount of damage, or those who may want to hurry up and get it done, the opportunity to do that. So that limit through the end of February. We were able to secure a quote from Kansas City Tree Company. Did I get that right? Yeah. For curbside collection. For curbside collection citywide, we would be looking at a cost, and as you might imagine, curbside contractors are at a premium, because many of our neighbors and others throughout the area are also doing curbside collection. But at a cost of what we're estimating at about $3,400 per day. That would be an 8-hour day, and that would include both the labor and the disposal costs. So crews with a grapple truck going up and down the streets. We're estimating at this point probably the best situation would be 1 truck over maybe a 2-week period. If that were the case, then we would be looking 10 days. So, $34,000. So I think for somewhere in the $34,000 to $45,000 range, we could offer a curbside collection for our residents. They would not be required to cut the material to any particular size. So Kansas City Tree Company could handle limbs of any size. They would be required to get it to the curb. So we would not be going into backyards and removing limbs in that fashion. So I think that is certainly an option. It also then doesn't rely on our crews and take our crews away from any plowing efforts or other things that might happen. Yes?
Yeah, would neighborhoods be assigned a day then, or would it be the truck going everywhere for those 10 days? Or
I think I think that's an option. I think as we've talked about it internally, it might make the most sense to say your material needs to be at the curb by the particular day. And then as you've seen, probably many of the other cities are assigning specific sides of the streets. That's often with their crews. not having done curbside pickup here, but having done it in previous lives, I think oftentimes you're better off to just say material needs to be at the curb by X date, and then we will make a pass-through. And then if we're caught up with, another weather situation, weather could influence a private contractor just as it would our other, crews. So I think that's what, from our perspective, we would recommend is that we set a date, the residents have that material out. Yes?
And I was gonna say, I know you said the drop-off is really hard to guess. Is there any sort of guess on cost for that?
I mean, we're looking at probably $200 a load for disposal costs, some additional costs for that. We would have to staff it with our people because we need to typically have a loader, particularly with the size of brush. People don't drop their brush efficiently. They get it off their trucks and trailers as fast as they can. And so we have to try and push and move that. So we've been trying to track down the costs, and I don't know that Brent and I had found them yet of what we spent on the last disposal event, but I think it was in the neighborhood of probably $25,000 to $27,000.
Oh, is that? Okay, so not a ton of difference.
I don't think there's a tremendous difference in this instance. So I think from our perspective, we would certainly, obviously this isn't a budgeted expense. It would be something that would come out of a general fund balance. But as you know, we do have excess general fund balance that this could be taken out of if the council so desired. The other thing then becomes when do you start it? So many of the cities, from what we've seen, Fairway, Roeland Park, Prairie Village are doing curbside collection. Overland Park, Shawnee, Merriam are doing drop-off. Some of the cities are starting this week with the collection, but I don't know, my take in driving around the community is the weather conditions have been, we're not there. I think, even some of the cities doing drop-off are waiting to announce drop-off hours until this next storm comes through. I think that particularly at this time of year with the weather conditions that we have, we need to make sure that we give residents ample time to get out and get that material moved or cleaned up or out to the curb if that's the route that we would choose to go, which means it sits in the community a little bit longer. But certainly we want to be cognizant of work schedules, and if the storms keep coming on the weekends, those are often the best times for our residents to get out and clean up that debris.
So Laura, once we come to some conclusion of how we're going to deal with this, it'll be put on the website?
Absolutely, and out through social media. So I think as we've looked tentatively at a calendar, I don't think we, from a staff perspective, would recommend starting a pickup any sooner than the 28th of January, which is a Monday. That would give, because it looks like, the weather forecast is changing, it feels like almost hourly at this point, but I think they're predicting snow. I believe the last I saw was Saturday and Tuesday of the following week. So giving people, again, then the balance of that week and the following weekend before we started collection.
So having it out by the 28th.
Having it out by the 28th.
Did we get bids from anybody else besides Kansas City Tree?
We have not called. We can make some calls, but the other contractors have been, so many of the other cities already have the other big tree contractors under contract. And so they simply just exercise the options that they have in place. Yeah.
And that's a Mission resident, which is mine. That part's good, but okay.
So we can make some additional calls if we think absolutely curbside is the way to go. I didn't want to, first I wanted to see did we have anything that was even viable and what was the appetite, and we can, we can make some calls, particularly if we're going to look at not starting that collection until, a couple of weeks out. There may be some other opportunities, but from some of the pricing that we've seen in some of the other communities, I think this is a very reasonable price in terms of being able to access all of our residences.
I've gotten quite a few calls about limb removal, and it's something people want. They feel like they need, and I think the size of the storm is warranted. That's my 2 cents.
Are we ready for a motion here?
Yes, I think we would look for this. It's outside of my authority to spend, so yes.
No, I have something I want to discuss after we pass this motion.
You assume that's the facts.
So, what is the motion at hand?
I'll make a motion that we give authority to the staff to enter into a contract with a firm to remove the limbs and debris for an amount not to to exceed $40,000, and, with whatever company they can.
Curbside program?
Curbside.
Second.
I particularly like that they
We
will,
have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I particularly like that they'll pick up any size. I think that whoever we go with, in this weather, a lot of folks can't be out cutting things up in smaller pieces, so.
And there's a group of people that can't get it to the curb.
Sure,
You know, we used to have Boy Scout troops, and we had Shawnee Mission North on call. They did phenomenal work in helping, elderly people get the things from point A to point B. And we don't have that access anymore, so I don't.
Well, and I think we do have some limited. I think we can put that call out, and we've talked about that as a staff, that once we decide what we're going to do, then we can let people know if you're physically unable to get those items to the curb, then we can begin to try to connect those resources.
That would be great. Perfect.
We also want to make sure that we get all the power lines back up, and we're doing that in a safe fashion, and chainsaws are a little bit different than snow shoveling and raking leaves, so.
I would just add, I trust the staff's discretion on the timing, but I think what you're saying about having a decent weather weekend for people to be able to work through things is really important.
All right, any other discussion?
It might be good to wait until after the Super Bowl, because there could be a lot of distractions.
But, what we can do is, we can say tentatively, and we can say we're pending a final decision on that until, following this next storm, and that gives us the opportunity to adjust if we need to.
Yeah.
Or would this just be limbs, or, I've seen quite a few trees down. So, if people, cut up their trees, and is there a limit?
No, there wouldn't be a size limit on this, with the exception of what people would set up for waste management to collect. So we'll be very clear in communicating that you can't put a, 4-foot tree trunk out for waste management. It will be left at the curb, but we can certainly communicate that.
All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second. Please call for a vote.
Thomas.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Schlossmacher.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, related to this issue, one of the questions that has come up in our community is the fact that some people are not maintaining their trees properly and are actually the cause for some major outage in the neighborhood. And I spoke with one of the foremen of the team that was fixing the lines, and they indicated that we can get some evidence or events, history of locations that seem to be repeat areas that get the lines knocked down because lack of tree maintenance. And I would encourage our staff or someone to contact KCP&L and get some data about the geographic locations where this seems to be a repeat condition. And then either contact the owners of those properties to try to mitigate it, or figure out a way in which KCP&L can take out trees that are causing these hazards.
I thought they do that already.
Well, they don't. I've understood that KCP&L, as opposed to Westar Energy, which is the KCMO side, will not take entire trees out. They'll only trim branches as opposed to removing trees that seem to be diseased, brittle, old, that really need to come out in their entirety. Because these are cases where for 30 years repeat areas have been, and different owners of that particular property have allowed those trees to drop branches, and every time it involves 20 households, and it involves a week-long outage, or a week-long outage.
Yeah, I think that's good to know.
All right. Yes, Ms.
Just
Moore.
said, relatedly, I know, Laura, that we had exchanged some emails on this a year ago, but a KCP&L line audit was happening in Prairie Village, and I would would just say, to the extent that as a city, we can stay on KCP&L and make sure, check in that they're doing their maintenance work and checking the condition of our lines, and using our influence on that, that would be good as well.
I think the franchise agreement, I'm not sure if you need to revisit what the franchise agreement calls for with KCP&L. If there are elements that relate to the tree management, making sure that, I know that one is us giving permission to the company to work on those easements, but I don't know if there's any obligation back to the city by KCP&L to maintain the trees.
All right. Moving on to item 10, comments from the city council. Does any member of the council wish to make a comment?
This is just a reminder that we will have a Ward 3 meeting tomorrow evening at the community center at 7 p.m. All are welcome. Cookies will be served.
And we will have a Ward 1 meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd at 6:30 at the bar. No cookies, but maybe wings or something.
If I may, it's not too often that you get a report about the police department that is a really great report like we got tonight for the presentations. These guys getting involved in saving that person's life, and usually what you hear in the news or read in the paper opposed to something negative about a police department. So I just hope, since we have the folks here, that they will put something positive in there about this and show it. Because it's we've got a great police department here. You guys do a great job. We appreciate you.
I also wanted to commend the Public Works Department. I know that this last storm was trying to the residents, trying to keep their driveways clear as the snow seemed to never end. And then we had the outages and the branches. And I know we were pulling trees off of roads, getting them out of the way so we could get through. So again, I think this was an unusual event. And I'm always very proud of what the Public Works Department does. We never seem to have an issue as far as our roads being passable. So
I agree.
And city staff, I'm sure you guys felt like you should have a weekend, potentially we'll have another one. So thank you guys for all that you're doing, especially the communication to residents, because that's the most important thing, and Emily, you're always killing it on social media. So thank you.
Yeah, if we could, just one other thing. I just got back Sunday night. I was out of town when the storm came through, so I came home to my house having no power, which was fun. But the reason I was gone, I was in Washington, D.C., and my daughter, my oldest daughter, Carrie, was promoted to major, and she's in the Army. And they had the pinning ceremony on the White House grounds in the executive building next door to the Vice President's office, if you will. And it was just a fantastic event. And one of the highlights of my old life, I have to say. So proud of my daughter, so I just wanted to get that on record.
Congratulations.
it's great.
You know, I don't know how to go about this, but I know one of the things we encountered during the storm, and Laura and I went through this, we had a resident in Ward 3 that is disabled and has ADA accessibility to the house, had no power for 3.5 days. I don't know how collectively we know during emergencies or things how to get to people. I went to her driveway. I don't have an ADA accessible house, or I would have taken her to my house. We have pockets of people that are in their homes that may not have a way to get out, or may not have a way to get things to them. I don't know a collective way of dealing with that, but I would certainly, maybe at our retreat, I would be open to listening to what we could do to either someone, elderly or can't get through it and lives by themselves that may need help from us. And I don't know how to do it house by house to go ask, but I'd certainly be amenable to what the city could do, or us as representatives to do, to have an acknowledgement that there are certain people out there that don't have the same access that the rest of us do.
I think CFD2 has a list that people communicate to them with certain needs and things like that. So.
And I think our police department has some of that information, but I will always say that, and I think we can certainly talk about that, but I will always say that even if it doesn't feel like an emergency, that's a situation where you pick up the phone and dial 911. and we can make sure we can get someone there to assess the situation and the need. So that's certainly something we can include as, carefully
A blurb in the
as a part of,
in the
right, as a
newsletter.
part of our communication
Right.
around those storms.
Okay, thanks.
I would think that would qualify as an emergency.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on to item number 11, mayor's report. I have no report, so, I'm sorry, I do have a big report. I have a big report because tonight's reappointment of committee members, I'm sorry. And these residents, we really appreciate their service to the committee because they do a lot of work, they volunteer their time, and they are very appreciative. And I really appreciate their willingness to continue to serve another term. So first off, I want to put before you the reappointments of Leah Loudon, Ward 2, and Bill Nichols, Ward 4, to the CIP Committee with terms expiring December 31st, 2020. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointments of Lee Loudon and Bill Nichols to the CIP committee with terms expiring December 31st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a general question, are these appointments based on your attendance record to the committee meeting?
We do, one of the things we do review is people's attendance, and if there is an issue, we do call and talk to them to see what the situation is. So yes, we do take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
All right, call for a vote, please.
Schlesmacher?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
Rothrock?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
Kring?
Aye.
Inman?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Flora?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
All right, I put before you the reappointments of Ann O'Leary, Ward 1, Lika Streethar, Ward 1, Melissa Curry, Ward 2, Mary Funk, Ward 4, and Mark Radiziner, Ward 4, to the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2020.
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointments of Ann O'Leary, Lika Streethar, Melissa Curry, Mary Funk, and Mark Radiziner to the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Kring?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
Schlesmacher?
Aye.
Flora?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Rothrock?
Aye.
Inman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, I put before you the reappointments of Hannah McFarland, Ward 1, Josh Thiede, Ward 2, Andy Highland, Ward 2, and Manny Trio, Ward 3, to the Sustainability Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2020.
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointments of Hannah McFarland, Josh Thiede, Andy Highland, and Manny Trio to the Sustainability Commission with terms expiring December 31st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call for a vote.
Flora?
Aye.
Quinn?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
Rothrock?
Aye.
Inman?
Aye.
Kring?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Schlesmacher?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. We have appointment of a number of city officials. These appointments are called for in our ordinances. I put before you tonight the following for appointment: Keith Drill as municipal court judge, Jeffrey Austin, David Bell, and Peter Simonson as municipal court judges pro tem. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the appointments of Keith Drill as municipal court judge and Jeffrey Austin, David Bell, and Peter Simonson as municipal court judge pro tem.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Yes, Ms. Flora.
I was just hoping we could hear a little bit about how, for these appointments, how these are evaluated, and if we have, an evaluation of these contracts. That process.
So we have not, at least in my tenure here, we've not had a process for selecting the judges. That has been something that has been worked out in part, again, it's a mayoral appointment with confirmation of the council, so we've not gone through a formal process. We have periodically gone through a process to select bond council financial advisors on the land use attorney side, and I don't recall where we are in those cycles, but we have gone through RFP processes in the past to look at selecting those positions.
All right, please call for a vote.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And finally, each year we appoint our third-party advisors and consultants who assist us with various projects throughout the year. I put before you tonight the following for appointment: Gilmore and Bell as bond counsel, Ellers as financial advisors, Pete Heaven, Spencer Fain, land use attorney.
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the following appointments with contracts expiring January 15, 2020. Gilmore and Bell as bond counsel, Ellers Incorporated, financial advisor, Pete Heaven, Spencer Fain, land use attorney.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on these? Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. That concludes the appointments. Moving on to item 12, City Administrator Report. Ms. Smith, do you have anything to report?
I do have just a couple of things. In looking ahead to weekend weather, we appreciate all the kudos and compliments. In our current roles, our staff, this is our first big storm event that we've gone through together, so we learned a lot about communication styles and preferences and methods over this last weekend, and so we'll get better at that. I think we did a good job. I think there's always room for improvement, so we'll look at that. I had shared with you previously that we did have some equipment that went down in this last storm, and I think, unless you worked miracles, I think we've lost 2.
They're all back up.
Oh, they're all back up. Well, they are miracles.
Miracles.
So we were down 2 in our fleet of 7, so that's good news. But we will certainly be able, and I know that it helps you all respond to resident and constituent questions when we can get kind of what may be contributing to delays and that sort of thing out as fast as we can. We've gone through the various appointments to the boards and commissions. I will tell you that we do still have several vacancies on our boards and commissions, and we'll be putting out a call for letters of interest and going through an interview and a selection process to fill those remaining vacancies. So as there are things specific to, and some of them are ward specific, so as there are those, we'll reach out to individual council members and ask for your assistance in trying to get those filled. Just a reminder, you should have received an email from the facilitator for our council retreat today with some advanced questions, the agenda, and some background materials we anticipate will be distributed on Friday, so you'll have plenty of time to review those in advance of our retreat, which is scheduled for January 26th at the community center. Also a reminder that City Hall will be closed on this coming Monday for the Martin Luther King holiday, and I have had a good response from residents wanting to participate in the conversation about the Hodges planters. So we're going to have to narrow the list probably of those who have expressed an interest, but I think there's been some good communication in the last couple of days of trying to make sure that we've got a representative from each street so that we're kind of spread out throughout the neighborhood and making sure we've got all of the interests represented, and that's all I have this evening.
All right. Next item is executive session. We do have a need for an executive session tonight, so I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council adjourn to executive session to discuss current litigation pursuant to the exception for consultation with an attorney on matters deemed privileged. KSA 75-4219B2. Also attending will be City Administrator Roy Smith, City Attorney Dave Martin. The open meeting will resume in the council chambers later than 8:45.
And I'm sorry, and Brian Freeze was late to bring I'm sorry, I did not indicate it. I missed that on the motion.
And we'll include Brian.
Brian Freeze was late to bring
No, I said both. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ayes vote.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And we counted the chocolates.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Long drive, kid.
Oh, you guys always done. You guys have always done.
Do I have an amendment?
Mayor, I motion to amend the
Motion.
motion to add Murray with Bill Murray.
Where's that length of page? Length of page.
Length of
Okay.
page.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call for a vote.
Flora,
Flora.
Quinn,
Aye.
Thomas, Rothrock,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Crane, Davis,
Aye.
Schlossmacher,
Aye.
All right. We'll still be back. So we're back in session. However, I would entertain a motion.
I have a motion to extend the time by 5 minutes.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to go back into executive session for 5 more minutes, coming out at 8:50.
Correct.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
So
Flora,
Aye.
Cream,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Schlossmacher.
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah.
let the record show we're back in session.
We have the name changes.
Crowd has.
All right. I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, subject to the execution by all parties, I move that the city approve and perform the settlement agreement in full and complete release proposed by the city's legal counsel in the Heartland Apartment Association versus City of Mission case.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call for a vote.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock, Cream,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Schlossmacher,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Mayor, subject to execution by the plaintiff and his counsel and approval by the court, I move that the city approve and perform the class action settlement agreement and release for a substantially similar document with non-material modifications as proposed by the city's legal counsel in the Danley versus City of Mission class action case.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please vote.
Thomas.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Being there's no further business tonight, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.